Coming up next on the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast.
We had someone work for us about a year and a half ago. She stole a bottle of Paris Hilton perfume from a client who was a lawyer. I'm like, could you have picked the worst person to steal from?
From your first dollar to your first million, welcome to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast, presented by ZenMaid. Join your host, Stephanie Pipkin, founder of Serene Clean, as she shares proven tips, tricks, and hard-earned lessons. Whether you're just starting out or ready to scale, get ready to discover how to build your own cleaning empire. Let's roll up our sleeves and dive in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast. I am your host, Stephanie from Serene Clean, and in today's follow-up episode, I have Miss Cheryl, and she is going to tackle with me mistakes that we see commonly amongst our consulting and coaching clients that we ourselves have made. We see time and again, and I thought that this would be a great thing to hit Cheryl up for because she does so much coaching and training of other cleaning business owners. So Cheryl, for the folks who did not hear our first episode, one, go back and listen to that, guys. What are you doing? Give a little background on yourself, please, Cheryl.
I'm from the Boston, Massachusetts area. I tell everyone I'm 40 minutes north of Boston. So if you hear that accent, you know, sometimes it comes out a little bit here. I started my own cleaning company by myself, a solo clean called Made Bright Cleaning. I made a ton of mistakes. I let a ton of clients treat me like crap until I learned that I didn't want to be treated like crap anymore. And so I solo cleaned for a long time. My son was little. He was like 5 years old, 6 years old. Now he's 23. So I didn't really scale the company until 2018. So I started growing it. And my husband was not my husband at the time. And now he is. And he's like, hey, this is really, doing something. So after a couple of years, he jumped in. So we grew the coaching. We grew the cleaning company up to a certain point, and then we added power washing about 3.5 years ago. So now we're, just under the verge of hitting 7 figures. 4 years ago, I decided to coach. I always wanted to help people. Years ago, I was an aerobics instructor. This is where I think it comes through. Like I was an aerobic instructor, a step instructor, a fitness competitor, but I always liked helping people. So I knew when I got my own success with my cleaning company, I wanted to help people because a lot of people just don't have the support, right? In my opinion, it's easy to clean. It's difficult to build a cleaning business, especially with managing people. I think managing people is one of the hardest things in the whole thing, hands down. So that's my background. I still am an active owner in my business. I work it in the morning. I go see my staff. I do roll call. They go out for the day. In my afternoons and evenings, I spend my time dedicated to helping other cleaning business owners across the country and Canada.
So inspirational. And yeah, like I said, guys, we go in depth on Cheryl's journey and even the pressure washing, all of that stuff we talk about more in depth in her first episode here. But I asked her back on because she has so much experience working with others, but also the fact that she still is an active owner. And I really love that because I think that it's important to have the pulse on your business, even if you are going to be doing other things or you have the ability to be more hands off. I think it's really good to stay on it. Just like, obviously, like I'm a remote owner, but I know what the hell's going on in the ring clean every day.
You have to.
Yep. Otherwise things can take a turn for the worse. Even just culturally, you won't notice that things are kind of going awry until it can be too late. So obviously you've had, like you mentioned or alluded to, lots of mistakes specifically around boundary setting and things like that. But truly every area of our business is just ripe for the picking of making a bunch of terrible mistakes. And I think a lot of times we have to touch the hot pan. We can't be told it's hot. We got to touch it and burn ourselves. But the goal today is to try to let people know the pan's hot, if you know what I'm saying.
So when I first started, I underpriced. Very common. But it was only me, right? So all that money was going in my pocket. So I was like, well, that's okay. I'll go clean this little apartment for $75. To me, I was like, well, I'm getting the whole thing, So that's before I had any systems. I had no scheduling. I didn't have, ZenMaid, CRM. I didn't have any of that stuff. I don't even, we had a cell phone. So I would text people and people would, no boundaries, right? Like you said, people would cancel last minute. Oh, I can't do tomorrow. And then I was a single mother at the time. I'm dependent on that money coming in. And I hear that a lot with solo cleaners. They're like, well, why was dependent on all that money? I'm like, well, it's not really yours until you do the service.
Correct. Spending it before it's even in your pocket kind of thing.
Exactly. That was a challenge for me. And just people expecting, oh, can you do this while you're here? I hate that. While you're here, can you do that? Because I didn't have any communication skills. They weren't that great back then. I didn't have, here's what's included in a basic reoccurring cleaning. Here's what's included in a deep clean. Everything was just like mishmash. And so that's when the homeowner was the one in charge. So fast forward years later, I created all these systems and a sales package and everything. So, when I go to the house, I say, this is what's included in a reoccurring clean. This is what's included in a deep clean. I give them specific things to pick from. Now there's no boundary crossing, right? And homeowners they just don't know. They just figure, oh, while you're here, can you throw in a load of laundry? And it's not really what we do.
That's a really great example of something I see inexperienced new owners do, especially when they've come from, I'm an individual cleaner and I will do literally anything that the customer asks, right? Because they want to impress the client. They want to stand out. But all that's doing is when you do start bringing on staff, it is just shooting yourself in the foot because that is not scalable. There's no way to systematize that. And it's making your new cleaners look bad in comparison to you, even though it's not their fault, right?
And so as an owner, I always tell people that I coach that, no one's going to clean as good as you in the beginning. So you're looking for 95%. If you bring 100%, if you can get your staff to bring 95%, you need to be happy about that. And another thing I see with owners struggling is that they're so afraid to they're not going to clean like me. Well, that's good. Your body's going to be broken down in about 10 years.
Yep.
And you're not going to be cleaning all those houses anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Even things like, getting hands and knees scrub. Like if you sell yourself, I get on my hands and knees and I scrub the floors. Well, that's not particularly sustainable on the body. And I would never ask my cleaners to do that. Is it probably the best way to get a floor, eat off of it clean? Probably. I don't care because I can't ask people to do that,
There are some companies that have done that. I don't know if they still do it. I've had some staff with me that have come from some larger companies and that's how they used to clean the floors. So when they come to work, for me, they're like, oh my God, that's so awesome. I don't have to get on my hands and knees and do this.
So hard on the body. I mean, I'm not saying I'll still clean a bathroom floor if it's on my hands and knees because it's faster. I can I can do everything. But so I'm not saying I wouldn't do that. I'm saying that is not the rule in the business, right?
If you can get it with a mop, get it with a mop. But then sometimes, for example, if you're in a bathroom and you got to do around the toilet, the rim of the toilet, it's better to get on your hands and knees.
And I honestly, especially because there's triple dribbles.
Right. It's the people people struggle with a lot of things, but they struggle with having to come to the reality that your cleaners, you're hoping they're going to clean and be as detailed as you, but don't think it's going to happen all the time.
Yeah, like you said, I think that relinquishing of control is very difficult because you're so afraid. It's a very anxiety-inducing thing, especially if you haven't had staff. And those first disappointments of those first staff members, they hit a lot harder. Where now, I feel I joke dead inside. You have to really do something bad to disappoint me heavily because I'm like, it's good, it's all good. This is what people do.
I have and this is going to sound bad, I don't expect a thing. I just say, come in the door, let's, whatever, do the onboarding, go out with one of my trainers and let's see how you do. We don't do videos. We just do, let's get out there and see if you can clean. We know in 2 or 3 days, we know if they're going to make it or not. I don't have any expectations. In the beginning, you get emotionally attached. Oh my God, my company can't go on without this person. And then you realize that it can. And then you just get so, like you said, dead inside. You just get so emotionally unavailable.
Yeah. Because when you open yourself up to that, and it sounds bad, but it's this is business. And if it becomes draining then if we start allowing like one of the things I see very often in especially newer owners that I'm doing calls with is they have somebody come in, they're so excited, they're like, she's perfect.
I know.
And then a month later, it's just all downhill she quit without notice, right? That's the most likely scenario is the girl quit without notice and they are devastated. And I'm just like, first off, people who are very extroverted like myself, we can sell, anything to anything. And that includes myself, right? So when you have somebody who's really extroverted and who can interview well, they know what to say. So of course they're going to dazzle you. Of course they're able to like turn it on for that first week, but then the longevity kind of dwindles. And so I'm a very much like wait and see. And I used to get so excited when somebody really impressed me in that first, and I'm like, I'm a lot more, not cynical, but a lot more reserved on that reaction. Cause it's like, everybody's going to leave sometime. So why get so excited?
Do you remember when you used to lie awake at night when things would keep you up? That was like a long time ago for me. Like all of a sudden you're just like, I don't even care. I'm going to bed. I don't even care.
Yeah. No, that's a good thing because we want that detachment and because if you don't detach from the results of a person, it's like, that person they could be perfect. And then, 4 years into it, they steal something. For example, that's not just happened to me recently. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, whoa, what the heck? And so we have to detach.
You have to, or you're not going to make it. So there's so many ups and downs in this business, in any business, right? It could be cleaning, it could be something else. There's so many ups and downs and people are going to come and go. Like you're hoping for the best. You're hoping they stay a year, 2 years, 3 years. If they do, you're totally blessed. I mean, you and I know the average is what, like 3 months? I mean, knock on wood.
Even a year, I'm happy because I'm like, I got my return on investment into that person.
1 year, we hired and either they quit or fired 27 people. This was like pre-COVID. This was like before. And we sat there and like, oh my God, it's a lot of people to process. So like we came from a place where we failed miserably, right? I didn't know how to create a company culture. I didn't know how to motivate people. I knew how to motivate people from like in a past area, but like in the cleaning business, I'm like, how do I motivate these people? Because they're not making $100,000 salaries, right? So you're dealing with something totally different. So it's not money. That's another thing I see owners will say is they want to pay the cleaners so much money. And I'm like, well, what does your state say your minimum wages? What are your costs? What are your gas? All that stuff. And they just come from a place where they're working so hard. They deserve to, get this amount of money. I'm like, you can only pay as much as your company can afford. And they have a hard time figuring that out because everyone that starts a cleaning company has a servant's heart. We like to hire people. We like to make people feel good. So that's a really hard transition for someone that wants to give and give and give. And then you're going to put on your hardcore. It's black, it's white, it's numbers, it's business. That's super hard for people to be like, oh my God, I can only pay them this much or else I'm not going to take a paycheck.
And also starting people, like a lot of times they'll do a call and I'm like, what are you paying your cleaners? They're like $25 an hour. I'm like, you're paying employees who just started 2 months ago, $25 an hour. Where are you going to go up? You're only making about $40 an hour. So you're already paying them too high. As a rule, for our listeners, like we do not want our W-2 employees to be pulling in at an hourly rate, even 50% of what we're charging. 40 is probably appropriate because of all of the costs, and you got to leave room to grow for them so they have something to climb for, right?
Yeah, and every state is different. Like I'm in Massachusetts. The joke is it's Taxachusetts. So anyone that runs a business in Massachusetts, like we have like fees up the butt, you know what I mean, for everything. Payroll and everything is higher for us. I mean, some states don't have state income tax. We do.
Yeah, so we don't have to do sales tax in Wisconsin, like on services. So
yeah, so it's all kind of different. So the biggest thing is that nobody knows their numbers. Very few people that come to work for me know the numbers. I say, what are you making for profits? They have no idea. Like no clue. So that's super difficult. Like, and then when the reality hits that like, okay, we figured out the profits and that you're making a 10% profit margin, you're like, oh my God, I'm not making any money. I'm like, correct. So you have to raise your prices. You have to lower your wages. And I think it's difficult for people because business is nothing about emotion. It's all math.
It is math. That's exactly right. Like everything that, like anytime we're doing audits or anything, it's like the math doesn't lie. But if you don't even know the facts, I would agree 100% is that one of the biggest things that like I work on when I'm on calls with people is like getting to the point where they even just have all of the numbers in one place, because they're collecting money all over the place. They're not bookkeeping properly. So they legitimately, all they know is if there's money in the checking account or not. And that's what they're basing their decisions off of. And it's like, that's not how, and again, no shade, because I know a lot of our listeners are right here and I know you guys are working on it. I know you're working on it because I've been doing calls with you, but it is so important. Like this is like so important that we figure out what's the P&L every month, every week I'm looking at that.
So I do, I have my coaching, and then I do once a year, I do an in-person retreat, which is like so much fun. It's awesome. So this year I did a challenge. So I created it's called Sisters Empire Builder Awards. And the challenge is they needed to, try and increase their numbers, write all their numbers down, write all their profits down and everything. Right. And so I had 10 people that, that won like an award. It was based on pure, just a revenue, thing. And so everyone's bringing me their numbers. And then, some people were okay. Right. They've been working with me for a couple of years. Some people had their numbers all organized in their CRM. They sent it to me. It was fine. And then I had some people like, well, I'm getting $2,000 a month from this client and they're sending it to me on Venmo. And then this one's giving me cash in an envelope. And then they have these over here. And everything was everywhere. And I was like, well, here's the bottleneck. I'm like, nobody knows. They're not no one. I would say probably 75% of cleaning business owners in the beginning, they don't know what they're making.
Yep. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. And because of that, then you're making decisions without all of the facts in line. So when you're making like you're spending money on this, or even what you're paying your cleaners, you're guessing. We're guessing. And that is your recipe for disaster when we start guessing, right?
Yeah. And people, some owners will think they have to pay for ads, and then you don't have to pay for ads for a long time.
Yep. That should be years into the making. Like we should be able to grow. Obviously, we talked about that in the first episode some with, Facebook, obviously word of mouth, Google reviews, like that should be the focus. All of those things are free, And
it's like people will just throw a bunch of money at and be like, oh, well, I don't know. And I said, well, what's your acquisition cost per client? I have no idea. They're throwing like thousands of dollars, $2,000-$3,000 a month. And I'm saying, oh my God.
Paying somebody to run ads for them when they, right. I'm like, you don't even know how, sales process. So that would be something too, is like, can you handle those types of leads? Do you know how to handle that yet?
Right. They just don't have a breakdown yet. You know what I mean? It could be like, in some companies will throw a bunch of money at ad. They know who their target market is, and that's great. But then when they go to do their real numbers, like their profits, because the gross number doesn't matter. Yes, it looks impressive, but what really matters is the profits and what you put in your pocket, right? So when they go to do the numbers, if they're, they have an ad spend of like, $50,000, $60,000 a year, your profits aren't as high. So I'm just like, what's the sense? Yeah, you can do it a little bit. Like we've done some ads before for our power washing. That's a completely different business model, different animal, whatever. But cleaning, we haven't. I have not. But I've worked really, really, really hard at like not giving up, like diving in, like going, in the beginning, I did all those like home days, the booth and all that stuff. I'm sure you did too, whatever. Yeah. It's like a scrappy thing. I don't do them anymore, but I just worked super hard on like the brand, on the community, in community groups, like all that stuff. So I built the reputation where I didn't need to do all that stuff.
I really like that you just used the word scrappy, because that's a really great descriptor for how you need to be in the beginning when you don't have the money to be doing these things. And and if you do have the money, like say, you're coming at this of this is my project. I don't need this income right now to live off of. Then you can come at it from a different perspective. But if like this is your income, you got to be creative. You got to be scrappy. And it's when you have a limited budget or no budget for marketing, it makes you creative because you have to, put nose to the grind and figure it out.
I didn't have any money in the beginning. All the money that came in was going into my funds, and I commingled funds.
Oh, that's another mistake.
Commingled funds. Everyone does that in the beginning. Oh, I'll just send myself a Venmo out of the business account. You're just like, my husband came in and he goes, and my husband's like, he's like an anomaly. Like at some point, like, maybe you'll meet him because he's starting to help me in the coaching business and stuff. But he's like a finance guy, a tech guy, and a blue collar guy, like all mixed into
one. You got yourself a dream man.
He's like he will go out and he does, the power washing, but then he can sit there and do numbers and do tech and stuff. So he's like, you can't send yourself a Venmo from the business account. I'm like, why not? That was years ago, but like we don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I would just say even that bookkeeping of like, people not knowing how to pay themselves, or even I've had conversations where people are like, I'm not paying myself at all from the business, but they're paying their personal expenses out of the business account. I'm like, no, you are. You're just not doing properly. So you're taking a paycheck. You're just using it to buy groceries from the business, basically.
In the smaller, like if you're like under 100,000 or whatever, you'll be okay, right? With the government.
Yeah, the
like
IRS is most likely not going to come after you, but they can audit years back. And it just makes it hard for you for taxes. And it's kind of hard to shift the boat in the right direction if you've been doing that improperly. So the sooner we can get proper bookkeeping in place, proper payment of yourself, and that can be like, it can literally, it doesn't have to be even you on a paycheck necessarily. You can just take owner's draws, but you have to document it. You have to document it.
You have to document everything. And I haven't worked with anyone that's gotten audited yet. What I have seen, we could literally talk for hours about this. Because now that I'm like, what are owners doing wrong? I'm like, this and this.
I know, that's why I was like, this is a great topic, because I'm like, we can talk about this for hours, literally.
So people misclassify their workers. They're paying them $10.99 and they're really W-2.
I bring this up so much on the podcast, and there are people who can do ICs properly, and I've had them on the show. They're doing it correctly. 90% of companies that are running independent contractors are doing it completely illegally, and they don't even know it. And the amount of risk that you guys are putting yourself under, and your staff members too, because they are your employees. You're just calling them independent contractors.
Every state is different. So your business is it Wisconsin?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So what does it say for 1099 workers in Wisconsin?
So basically they have to, they can only get, I think it's like 70% or less of their work from me. You cannot even use the word training. They have to provide the supplies. You can't tell them can't tell them how to do the work at all. Like they show up, it's mining out jobs is what it is. And it's just, what I want my business to be like is a absolute like beacon of like perfection in every area. And the only way to do that is with W-2s.
And so I think too, like, okay, so even if they explain it to their employees really don't understand that you're either paying taxes on the front end or you're going to pay taxes on the back end. So like, if you're 1099, you get all the money up front. Okay, you're going to owe the government money. So you're really not making out that much. But then that person doesn't have any write-offs. So it's unfair to that person.
And they paying into Social Security or anything like that. And so I've seen people where they transition from ICs and they transition people to W-2, and their staff or team, they complain. They're like, my paycheck's so much smaller. It's like, well, no, actually, because you were supposed to be paying the taxes. You might not have been. You were supposed to be paying the taxes on the back end. Now it's getting taken out of your paycheck, right? But it doesn't.
And then they get a refund at the end of the next year or whatever during taxes. So you're going to pay taxes one way or another. Just get used to it. Mm-hmm. This is America. But some states are like Texas. I work with people from Texas. There is no state income tax. They don't even have to hold a workers' comp policy in Texas. That's crazy.
What happens if somebody gets hurt? Like
they're on their own down there. I don't know. It's Texas and what is it? So Florida, no state income tax. I think they have to have workers' comp after 3 employees. Tennessee, I want to say 3 to 5, same thing. So you have some really like lenient states, and then you have states that are like Massachusetts, California, and New York that are like crazy.
Oh yeah, the hardest states to run a business in, honestly, I would say it's much more, and again, it's not like we're trying to take advantage of our employees, not at all, but we have to be aware and cognizant of these rules, because they do vary. Because if our listeners here are in Texas or Florida, you guys have a lot more leniency compared to or some of our international listeners, some of you in Canada, sucks to suck, man, because Canada's real tough to be a business owner.
My first real employee, so like when I was solo cleaning and I did a lot of apartment turnovers, not a fan of those. But I did a lot of those and I needed people. I needed helpers. So I called my friend, my cousin or whatever. I would pay them under the table. You know what I mean? And I just was like, so I had that. And then when I actually had my first real employee, I did 1099 because full disclosure, I'm like, I don't want to pay the taxes. I'm going to pay her 1099. So I broke the rule, not really. I was like, oh, 1099 is a better choice. I don't have to
it feels easier in the moment to make that call. Yes.
Right. But it wasn't right. She had no write-offs. She was wearing my shirts. I was driving her around. In the beginning, I drove employees around. I don't recommend that, everybody. That's another thing that people do.
I see that very often. Like literally the owner is drive because they hire people who don't have a license or a vehicle. And it's like, that can be a requirement of the job, guys. I promise there are people out there who have vehicles and driver's licenses.
It's one of mine. So valid driver's license, reliable transportation, no Uber, no bus, no bicycle, because we just found that, if you only have 3 people that have cars and then you have someone call in, then you can't do a whole route. So everyone has to be able to drive. We have a few company cars. My staff, for the most part, likes to drive their own cars. That's fine. We pay them a certain amount a day to drive around instead of doing the what is it? The hourly, we pay them a little bit more. So like, we'll take that. We pay them $15 an hour in Massachusetts to drive around a team around or whatever. But we just found that it was just, I don't know. It was just.
Well, and I love that you brought that up because what you're talking about, because that's something I see people do is like, they're like, this is the driver. Nobody else has the ability to drive for whatever reason or the vehicles. And it's like, what you're talking about is you have to plan for the worst case scenario. In that scenario, the driver's out. Now what? The whole day is absolutely destroyed because you have allowed that kind of like weak point to exist. Just take that weak point out. It doesn't need to exist.
Back in the day, I haven't cleaned in years, but I would always be the fall guy. So I'd be like, oh, Cheryl's going out again, taking a team, and I would have to go. And then like, you're probably going to agree with me. Once you get out of the field and once you stop cleaning, you never want to go back.
I know it's like real painful and I'm slow and I get covered in bruises. Yeah.
But so that's why you have to make it so everyone has a car, everyone can drive, or, even if their car isn't the greatest, but they have a valid driver's license, they can go take the company car. Then you never have to worry. Then you can be fluid and change things because as well as I do, everything, some days change, right? Clients call, they cancel, someone's sick, the kid's sick.
Every day their schedule changes that are last minute. Every single day because of what you're describing.
It drives my husband bananas. And I'm just like, it's
the business.
We've done the best we can do. You minimize it as much as you can, especially with the staff. Like we have like a, no same day call out. If someone calls out a few times, like in the morning, like we start our day at like 8:30. Someone's calling out 8 o'clock and they do that consistently. They're not going to stay with us. They're out. And that's like a rule when I do the onboarding, I'm like, we frown upon this. Here's why, blah, 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 blah. But like, you have to have those rules in place. But the clients, if your client calls you and says, my son woke up with a fever, he's thrown up, what are you going to do? Force them to go clean the house? Like you can't.
Of course not. Yeah.
You have to reschedule it.
But we're kind of getting at and alluding to is this scalable? Will this solution continue to work if we had more cleaners? And if it's going to break, then we shouldn't be doing it this way, right?
Correct. It's not easy though. Managing people.
So hard.
Managing people is tough and you're not born with that skill set. I think you have to learn how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that that's probably one of the areas that people struggle with the most. And just, we kind of were talking before we started recording on the concept of, many people, I would say the majority of the folks who open a cleaning business, they start as the cleaner themselves. And then they think their schedule gets full, right? Our listeners are probably like nodding their heads, like, that's me. My schedule got full. And now I'm like, okay, I need to hire people. And now all of a sudden we are experts at cleaning. We're killer cleaners, right? And now we're thrown into a world that we have never done before. Some people have had some management experience or whatever, but you need to know all of these things, right? Or at least be proficient in all of these different areas. And that's why frankly, small businesses fail so much. And in our industry, it fails a lot because people, they try to hire, they get burned. And so they're like, screw it. This is clearly not the path. I should just be my own cleaner. And they stay as an individual cleaner. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying if you want to scale the impact and you get out of the field, there's the only path is with employees or
only path. So why did you start your cleaning business?
Well, it was a side hustle. I stopped waitressing and I just wanted to clean on nights and weekends, maybe have a couple part-timers. That was truly how big my vision was I was making $12 an hour at my family's company. That was my full-time job. So I always had to have a second job so I could survive. I stopped waitressing. And so I was like, well, I'm good at cleaning. I'll do this. Right. And so there was no like grand, certainly not this.
My mother used to tell me when I was little, like when I was a kid, like I would just go through my room and I would deep clean my room at like 12. I would just like get into it and I'd be cleaning jewelry and I'd be like cleaning everything. I would just go like a spaz and like clean the whole thing. But I needed extra money. Like I said, I was a realist at that time. I've done a lot of things. I went to college, right? And I graduated with criminal justice. And I worked in an office and I wanted to hang myself. I was like, this isn't it. And then I fumbled, I waitressed, I bartended. I'm a musician too. I was writing songs. I was going back and forth to Nashville. I got a couple things published. I'm like, I'm going to make it as a songwriter. Not AI, like tech came in and ruined music or whatever. So like I bounced around, but I always wanted to do my own thing. I was like super creative. But so at that point I was selling real estate. I wasn't making enough money because real estate was super hard because you had to go out and do showings at night. It was just me taking care of Dylan. And I said, you know what? I'll just clean. A friend of mine had a cleaning company one summer. When I was younger, I worked for her in the summer and I'm like, this is easy. I'm going to start my own. That's just how my mind is. I'm just like, no, I'm going to figure everything out. So that's what I did. And I think I was probably bringing in like maybe at $1,500 a month. It was extra money. It was paying for stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. Here it is. But it wasn't years later that I started. So this was probably before like Facebook community groups were popular. And then in like 2018, I'm like, I'm just going to throw, a post up on Andover Moms and see what happens. And I got bombarded. And now this is before everybody caught on, like the way to do it. And so that's how I started doing it. I was waitressing. The first year I started to grow my cleaning business, I was waitressing and cleaning. I worked 7 days a week for a whole year. Like I'm crazy. My body has taken a toll since then. But like when I was a little bit younger, I was like, nope, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to go out and clean 5 houses. Then I'm going to pull a waitressing shift. That's just how I was until my back blew out and in my back. No, not happening. But that's how it happened. So I was waitressing 3-4 nights a week at this little like market or whatever. And then I had 10 clients. I had 20 clients. And I want to say I quit the restaurant. I had about 30 clients. And then I hired that first person, 1099. And then there we rolled. We rolled from there. I was scared to death. I'm like, am I going to be able to do this? And Jay was like, you can do it. He's like, here, we need a CRM. And then he's like, look at this. I found something called ZenMaid.
Here
we are. So, but he's been a huge help at that. I'm really good I love branding. I love marketing. I love sales. I'm good at customer service. He's good at the tech stuff. He's good at tech. He's good at operations. I think I'm good at managing and motivating people. He's good at managing and putting more structure. I think it would be looser if he wasn't actively involved in the business. And so that could be a good thing. That could be a bad thing. It just seems to work. But it's an interesting dynamic working with your husband in the business.
Oh yeah, I know several couples who they excel at it and others I'm just like, when's the divorce? Because like this is not working.
So we're good. We're pretty good. Like I said, like he's starting to teach. He teaches at the in-person retreat, the Rise retreat. He's starting I have a mastermind. I have a fundamental group called Drop Them Off. Then I have a Sisters Elite, which is like the graduate program, the mastermind. People want to scale that, 20, 30, 40,000 a month or whatever. So they go to that. So he's starting to come in and help me with that because he's got a knack for certain things that I may not be as good at. Sure, I can teach them, but I think he's I think he comes across better. And like for a techie, he doesn't explain anything techie. He explains it like in
layman's
like
terms. Yep.
real layman's terms. So, and the ladies that have met him, they love him. So
that's awesome.
Makes more of him.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And what you're making me think about is the fact that, you know, coming back to the concept of wearing hats in your business. And so, you know, we're coming from, you know, both of us, like we were the cleaner and neither of us have this like business, like background. We've never owned businesses. I'd never managed people ever before. And so now all of a sudden you're thrown into this world of it's all on you. And I think that one thing that I oftentimes see is I would call it this like identity fallacy of I'm not a techie person. I'm not good at sales. I'm not good at math. These are things I hear constantly in calls. And it's like, you may identify with that. It doesn't change the fact that these things must be done. I'm sorry that you feel that way. I'm sorry that and that may be true at this moment. In this very moment, you may be not the best at this thing. That doesn't change the fact that this shit's got to get done. Like,
yeah, I tell everyone that I work with, I'm like, I don't care how much you want to hand off your schedule to a VA. I'm like, you need to learn every single piece of your business before you delegate it out. Because if you go and delegate something out and then that person disappeared, you're hiring a VA from the Philippines, let's say, for example. So I have someone that helps me and they just had a massive super typhoon. What if that wipes the internet out and they're not able to do your schedule? Then you're screwed.
You don't know how to, and you're completely reliant on it. Yeah.
They tell you, like in any company, if you're a CEO, the CEO needs to know how to do everything, not extremely well, but they need to know how to function just in case they have to do it one day.
Mm-hmm. And also so that you can do the verification that it is not necessarily nefariously being done improperly, but sometimes you are getting embezzled from, sometimes you are getting stolen from, sometimes these things happen. And the reason it goes on so long is because the owner is absolutely blind to how it's supposed to be getting done. So how are you supposed to know if you don't know how to do it, that it's getting done wrong or that whatever is not being done properly? Same with sales. You know, they pass off sales, they pass off the sales calls, and then, you're not making any closes because it's like, you're not listening to the calls aren't recorded potentially. There's no way to verify, basically.
That's so true. And like, I don't know, like I love talking with people. So for me, when I go in, I still do my estimates myself because I just feel that I'm not cleaning anymore. So I have to be in touch with the clients. I firmly believe in being in person, relationship building. You're going to have a higher closing rate if you go, or if you send someone that can close like you can, right? Same thing. You just have to, I mean, especially with residential, like the majority of our business is residential. It's like 85% residential, 15% commercial. We have a small commercial division at night. And then the power washing, I don't know what you'd call if that's commercial. I mean,
it's like tertiary. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a mix, but like you have to be able to build that relationship. Otherwise your sales go in the dumps and then you get, then it's no good.
Well, and I think that I like that you brought that up of nobody's probably going to sell like you. And so when you do hand that off, it's most likely going to be affected a little bit. Just like cleaning, just like when we hand off the control to the cleaning, they're probably not going to be able to clean just as you are. They might be able to, but most likely the majority of your people, we want them to just be like you said, like as close to you as possible, but we can't have that expectation necessarily.
You can't expect them to be like you. I mean, I don't.
Or to care like us, or like
they don't care. No,
and it's not their job to care. If they wanted to care that much, they'd go open their own business. And I think that we get really offended when our staff members don't seem to care as much. And that's where, the culture building and the motivation and that type of stuff comes in. So we give them purpose and meaning. Like it's our job to inject that like rah, like we're changing lives, people, kind of mentality, I feel, because otherwise, well, most people are not particularly intrinsically motivated. I mean, and it's not the money, like you said. So we have to help with that.
And I think that the owners will get disappointed and when they realize that the employee, they clock in, they clock out at the end of the day. they don't want to be bothered. They don't work 14-hour days like us. Like there's an employee has a completely different brain than an owner. And that is hard for them to realize that, why did you make this decision? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? They just think totally differently. They want to just go to work. They want to like their bosses. They want to like their teammates, and then, hopefully,
be able to turn it off at the end of the day. And that's like several of my staff, actually a ton of my staff, majority of it actually comes from some flavor of the healthcare industry where they are overrun, underappreciated. Just a nightmare situation basically from a work perspective. And so many of them came and like, I like that when I'm done at the end of the day, I don't have to think about this anymore. It's just, and that's great. That's fantastic because that's their job and their role is to come in, kill it at what they're supposed to be doing. It's our job to handle the rest, right? Like that's the benefit. They don't have to find the customers. They don't have to deal with all this stuff. They just show up and clean.
Well, and so I like to hire people that have some sort of experience. I've always found that we can train them faster. We can get them off training pay, usually within like a week or whatever, sometimes quicker. Like if they come from like the major franchises, which I've had some, they'll be off training pay in 3 days. And then I retroactive, they don't even get training pay. They get like regular pay or whatever. I just find that they know the rules of engagement. They understand the customer service in the homes and stuff, like they get it. So I don't unless someone is like, that has like a rock star resume or they write me a cover letter. If someone doesn't have any cleaning experience and they write a cover letter and it impresses me, I'll interview them. Otherwise, I just hire all cleaners or PCAs, CNAs, because they're doing some type of cleaning anyways, like you said. I just find that we don't have time anymore to take 2-3 full weeks to train someone.
That's because where my business is, we're so rural, there isn't people with cleaning experience, like, because there's no cleaning businesses hardly. So like everybody's coming in totally no experience. Totally opposite for us because you have so many, Boston, heck, that you have so many people who have done it before where that's not really just the market for us. So we kind of have to deal with it.
I'm in a suburban area, so there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that think they can clean. There's a lot of solo cleaners. So, the thing that I hear when I'm out in the field doing the estimates is that, they weren't reliable. Oh, they didn't have the detail. Oh, they just, there was the language barrier. There's all those things or whatever. So, I tell everyone, like, we're not a major franchise that has like a ton of money behind them. Like but we're not small. We're like right in the middle. We have insurance. We have everything, but like we're sort of like, I don't know, we're different.
Yeah, no, I understand. And that's what it's so fun for me to talk to people in such different markets. Cause where I started my business, town of 5,000 people. That's literally how big it is. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And so the second location, which is about half an hour away, is 10,000 people. Our third location is another like half hour away, and that's about 50,000 people. So that's my market that I'm working with, both from a client perspective and then the employee perspective. So there's so many benefits. I love because it's really easy to stand out because there's so little competition.
Oh, yeah.
So
we have so much competition here. And then people will go and clean for like a couple of years and then, she's not cleaning for me anymore because she decided to get a job.
Yeah.
So, we get stuff like that, but I don't know. Things come and go. I think a lot of people will start cleaning businesses not realizing how much work it is.
Yeah. They're thinking it's easier because the cleaning, quote unquote, is simple. And it's like, how hard it is to do something seemingly simple to such a level of excellence and consistency. That is the challenge. Everybody can get a cleaning done well once in a while. Everybody can get 5 cleanings done in a day once in a while. But when you're having 20 plus appointments a day and all of these people have to coordinate and hit the same level of consistency again and again and again, that's where you start to stand out, is the consistency, right?
The consistency. And so having a CRM that you can send reminders to people, like that was a game changer. So we were at about, I would say this was like, I'm going back like 2018, we were probably like 10,000 a month, right? Didn't have a CRM. I was doing it out of a Google Calendar and my cell phone. So, I would be texting people on a Sunday for their Monday appointment. Oh, I forgot you were coming, blah, 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 blah. So we were at about 10,000 a month. And then we got Zen made. And then that was a game changer because I was able to communicate with them and look professional and be reliable, and then pull the map up so I'm not guessing where we're driving, right? Because if you're driving everywhere and you don't have that map optimization tool, you're spending a ton of money if you're paying by the hour in labor.
Mm-hmm.
You until you get really, solidified with, okay, we're in Georgetown today. We're going to schedule 6 houses in Georgetown. Then we're going to shoot over to Andover and do, 5 houses here. That was a game changer for me. And that was, obviously my husband had some influence in that, but I was like, wow, this is amazing.
The efficiency of it all. And honestly, for me, I actually had it since day one of the business. And when it was just me, and once I started hiring, that was one of the things, because I was at job sites and cleaners were at other job sites. And I was psychotically checking the GPS tracking. Are they there? Are they clocked in when they're supposed to be? Because otherwise, I know clients or consulting clients, they're texting and saying, are you at the job? And then, are they?
Oh, yeah. Totally. You need the GPS. There was one time where we had this girl, she wasn't with us long, and she was driving her own car. Now we make teams go in one car. But back then we were lenient. We're like, sure, you can take your own car. She ends up falling off the trail, not going to the job. She's somewhere else. Then she calls us and says, oh my God, I got into a car accident, blah, 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 blah. Like, we were getting nervous because we couldn't get in touch with her or whatever. And so Jay, my husband's like, you know what? I have GPS here. I'm going to go see if she's okay. He pinpoints it, finds her at a gas station. It was a complete lie. And her face turned white. And he's like, are you okay? Did you get in that car accident? You know what I mean? And if we didn't have that, like, GPS thing, we never would have known. And of course, we fight her on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, we've had multiple instances of time theft that we were able to pin down because of the GPS clock in and clock out, because we were having people, actually this happened fairly recently. We clean a police department actually. And so what she was doing was, the cleaner was, because you have to, at a lot of our commercial accounts, you have to like sign into their logs, right? And so in and out, basically, so they know who's in the building if a fire happens or whatever. And so she was signing in and out like an hour ahead of when she was supposed to be, but then she would clock out an hour. She would clock out when she was supposed to clock out. So we didn't necessarily, because we don't charge commercial accounts daily, of course, like we would a residential. Yeah, right. So we weren't necessarily catching it, or even though we had the data to catch it. So then the police station was like, hey, she's leaving at these times. And then we realized, oh my gosh, she's been committing time theft for, several weeks now.
That's deliberate. That's bad.
Yeah. No, and I was like, the balls at a police station to do that.
Right. No, I mean, that is, that we call it clock milking. That's what we call it over here. But it's the same thing. And then every once in a while they'll get wise to it and be like, oh, I cannot clock out until, I reach my house. But we're just like, no, because you can see it on the map.
Yeah, it's like, we're going to catch you stealing, right? Like, eventually it's going to come full circle. And I think that even like, that's why I'm happy we're sharing these stories, because it's like, guys, this happens to all of us. Like, eventually it's going to happen to you. It's not the end of the world. It's an experience you're going to have. This is going to happen. Just like we talked in our first episode, you're going to have somebody steal. It's going to happen. And you have to deal with it.
It is going to happen. I mean, and hopefully it's something small, like a perfume bottle.
Right? For example.
Checkbook.
Not prescription drugs or grandma's like ring or something, like.
You have to just screen the best you can. Like we do a couple of interviews. We just don't hire someone off one interview. Like, no way. We just do a couple, we do a Zoom, we do an in-person, and then like they'll have one with me, one with Jay, things like that. If we sense that this person could have had a past or anything like that, we'll ask a question like, is there anything that would show up in a background check that I would need to know?
We ask that too, because if they lie, yeah.
We'll scare the crap out of them. And usually they'll tell you, but I do a Google search, social media search, like we do all these things to make sure. And you're still not going to get it right all the time.
Yeah. Well,
you just have to cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Once we started, we've always done group interviews, and then we started doing the second interview round just individually. And that's really helped us get a better gauge. But I highly recommend about the social media, because people be acting stupid on social media. And like, if you can look up and on their public Facebook page, they are going on like psychotic rants okay, this is not an emotionally stable person, or if they, and so we're trying to find stable, somewhat sane people to work for us.
Throwing up the gang signs on their Facebook page or whatever, like I'm always looking for stuff like that. And you, like I said, you just hope for the best, see them in person, ask them the right questions, but you're not going to get it right all the time. Like sometimes we're like, wow, we thought that one was going to work out. That one was a shit show.
Well, honestly, that's what we've been doing every single time somebody doesn't work out. With my management team, we analyze, is there any red flags that we missed? What did we not ask? And just, it's kind of like constantly, with any of our system guys, we're always constantly auditing and tweaking, and nothing is ever set in stone. It's never just perfect forever. You always are going to have to be making changes. And I think that is one mistake I would say is people in their head are like, okay, I'm going to do these SOPs once and then I'll never have to touch this again. And it's like, no.
Oh, no, you're always updating that. Desperation hires. That's what I see a lot. People will hire out of necessity and then they just hire a body.
Yeah. The first, I would say several years, it was like, do they have a pulse? Cool. Hop on board.
And you'll put anyone into a house. And if you really sit back and look at that person, you're like, what was I thinking? We have a couple of wealthy areas here and you just can't bring anyone into those houses.
Yep. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think I would say one of the top 3 mistakes that I myself made and that I see everybody make is what you just stated is desperation hires. And anybody I have on the podcast, that's literally what they all say is I was hiring from a desperate place of I needed somebody and this person was standing in front of me. And that then I knew that it wasn't going to be good. And I still made that decision because I'm like, it's so short-sighted, guys. And the reason it is because you have that person now, but they could ruin your reputation. Then you fill their schedule up, they leave, and now you have a full schedule and everything else that you're dealing with. So like, it's actually way worse than just being patient and wait for the right person to come along.
And I think too, and I'm sure you've heard it too, clients will say, oh, there's been a lot of different people in my house.
They don't like turnover. Like, you think I like it, client? I don't want this happening.
Well, your elderly clients, we have some elderly clients. You can understand that they don't want all kinds of different people in their house. So they're looking for at least one familiar face. We work in teams of 2 and solo clean. We do a mix. All of my team leaders and trainers can obviously solo clean, but they get lonely if they solo clean 5 days a week. So we have this a hybrid model or whatever. But when you have a team leader, at least the homeowner should know the team leader's face. At least one familiar face, and then they're usually okay. But it's and it doesn't feel good when you're rotating different people in and out of your company all the time. It's just it's exhausting too. You're dealing with all different personalities, all different things. You got to train this one over again. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And obviously, we try to avoid it as much as possible. There's only so much you can do, but that's why it is important to hire slower and then, fire fast kind of thing, because then we're trying to keep things consistent for our clients. And that's another reason I don't like the IC model is that a lot of times they'll just literally assign jobs or you kind of have, the jobs up for grabs and you'll send anybody. And it's not a great experience for the client. Not at all.
I think so. I think that 1099 works better in commercial.
I agree.
I agree. I don't think residential, they have to have a personal touch in the home. It's after COVID, 50% of the workforce, at least around here, at least one person is working from home.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Someone's always home now. So they want to feel a familiar face, and they might gravitate towards a solo cleaner because it's a solo cleaner and it's one person and they're comfortable, even if they don't know how to schedule, if they cancel.
Things, that consistency. Yeah.
Yeah. It's people just, they either like a solo cleaner who they can sort of say, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you throw laundry in? Can you do that? Or you'll have another type of client that wants the structure of a company because they want the reliability. So there's usually 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the things that we do to kind of eradicate or blunt the effects of the turnover that we're going to experience is, okay, we have to put a new cleaner into a house because somebody left. We'll send Hannah, who's my quality controller and my trainer, we'll send her along for 1 or 2 cleanings so that we can make sure that the client is happy. And like you said, ease that transition, because it is inconvenient to the client. It is a reality of the business. So how can we make sure that experience is as painless as possible for the customer?
Yeah. And so you just brought up something that reminded me of when I work with, 'cause I work with a mixture of people. Like some people are solo, some people have teams when they come to me for help and everything's chaotic and we have to sort of like unravel the levels and kind of start over. But like when someone is a solo person and they hire that first person, the biggest mistake, if you take anything away from this podcast, is when you start hiring people, do not make a big announcement to your clients that you're hiring people so you can now step away from the business and run, because people will quit on you. Bring that person in, train that person, say, oh, this is Lisa, she's going to be helping me. I've gotten quite a few jobs I can't do by myself. You're going to see her face. She's going to be with me, and ease them into it. And then they get familiar with Lisa, and then they have conversation with her. And then that one day where you can't be there, I'm not able to make it, Mrs. Johnson, but Lisa's going to come today. That is how you bring people into your company. Never make an announcement, dun, 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 I'm hiring people and I'm not going to be around anymore.
And certainly don't do it by name, because that just, you're asking, cruising for a bruising, as they say in Greece. I said, that's the second time I've said that today. I said it in my team meeting this morning.
So funny. You're an old soul. That's
very much so.
Yeah, that's a big mistake that I see, that they'll make a big announcement and people will say, oh, I really liked how you cleaned, I'm going to hire someone else.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that was something that, when I first, I had my full roster of clients and I was transitioning them off of me onto, and my very first employee, actually, that I hired, she ended up, terrible. This is my first hire. I was using ZenMaid. She went to 2 houses in a day. In the first house, she clocked in, sat in the driveway for 4 hours and clocked out. She sat on her phone for 4 hours. The kid was home of the family. And I didn't know that this happened, but I was suspecting that this was going on. And I still had my full-time job. So luckily I was able to make an excuse. I went to the second house that she was clocked in at, supposedly. She'd gone there and clocked in. I pull up. She's not even there. I walk into the house. The checklist is left, filled out. This client in particular had a giant, big black mountain dog. So it had hair everywhere. Nothing was cleaned. So I cleaned the entire house. I didn't even have supplies with me. I just MacGyvered it. Like I cleaned that entire house. And then I texted her after I got done and I was like, how's Lisa's house doing or whatever? And she's like, oh, great. I forgot to clock out, but I just left. And I sent her a picture and I was like, actually, I just spent the 2 hours cleaning. So you're fired. And then I reached out to the first client and they were just fuming because they're like, what the? And I'm like, she is no longer with the company. I'm so sorry. I will be there tomorrow to do it. Thank you so much for your flexibility and patience. So that was my very first employee. Yeah, but it's so crazy because it's like, and the reason like I'm laughing now is like, if I had taken that as a sign to not be doing this, like, well, we wouldn't be having this conversation. That's for sure.
I mean, you have to have systems for employees, and employees do really well with systems. They do really well with show up to the office at this time. Here are your 3 houses for the day. Here's what you're going to do. Here are the instructions. They work really well like that. They don't have brains like us where they're just like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. But like, you have to give them structure. Yeah. But that's mind blowing that she would actually have the nerve.
Yeah, I know. Pretty ballsy, right? Actually, that's still one of my only 1-star reviews is her, because then she reached out like for a quote and she used their boyfriend's name. And I'm not going to lie, one of my bigger regrets is I kind of got sassy and clapped back and I emailed. I was like, you will not be getting cleaning services from us. And like, I know you're just fishing, because I was like, I don't know if you're opening your own business and you're trying to get prices. And she was like, I was going to be a customer. Like, well, I'm like, no, you weren't.
No, you weren't. We had someone work for us about 1.5 years ago. This is a crazy story. So she stole a bottle of perfume, Paris Hilton perfume, from a client who was a lawyer. I'm like, could you have picked a worse person to steal from? So he calls me. We had a good relationship. And he's like, I think your new person stole one of my daughter's bottle of perfume. And I'm like, okay, whatever. She had gone in with one of my team leads that had been with us for 6 years. I'm like, I definitely know it's not that one. She didn't take it. So he goes, okay, he goes, I love your company. I love your team leaders. Here's what I want to do. He goes, let's put the same exact bottle of perfume, put her on the schedule next month with that same team leader, and we'll see if she steals it again. I'm like, okay, let's have a little fun. He was being cool. He wasn't going to cancel us, which was great. did that, sent her, she stole it again. I was like, can you be that stupid?
Yeah, how much perfume do you need?
He was cool about it. He stayed on the schedule, and we called her up and we're like, we're gonna call the police. Don't call the police. I want to lose my kids. Blah blah blah. But here's the thing: 2 weeks ago, she just applied for a job again. I'm like, are you on dope?
Oh my
Maybe
God!
I don't know. I was like, no.
And you know what's really interesting is that when they say things like that, like, don't do this, like, it'll affect my family. It's like, well, you weren't thinking about your family while you were stealing, were you?
Stupid bottle of perfume. Like, we've had a couple of theft, like, for the amount of houses we've done, the amount of years we've been in business, it's been minimal, knock on wood. It's been nothing big, nothing where I had to pull insurance claim or anything like that. Just stupid things. Like, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, just for our owners listening, it's just these types of things are going to happen. You really have to be able to roll with the punches and just go into a very action and like problem solving mode. And again, coming back to the emotions, I know we talk about that ad nauseum, but being able to manage your emotions is going to be one of the most important skills that you guys get as an owner. And with it, literally a few months ago, I had to literally drop this, walk out of the room and cry because I completely lost it on somebody and I lost my temper on a crazy employee. And I was so disappointed in myself because I'm like, damn it. Why did I let that happen?
You have to lead. You have to like leave your emotions at the door. You need to lead as an example, because if you go, crazy on an employee, it sets a bad example for the other employees, then you're going to think you're crazy. But it's super hard to do that because they test you.
But that's what it was. She was poking the bear. She wanted to get fired because she tried to get unemployment. And she had broken so many policies. And so she had acted very unprofessionally. And I started saying, hey, this is really unprofessional. You can't be speaking like this. And she saw me typing on Slack. And, cause you can see when somebody's typing and she's like, how about a fucking phone call, you coward, blah, blah, blah. And so like she said, and so I was like, oh, you want a fucking phone call?
Oh my God.
And then my manager, Crystal, messaged me and she's like, Stephanie, stop texting, stop, knock it off. And I was already having a day. And I just had to go cry, and it was a Monday morning.
I get you. Sometimes the clients, will get to me. Like I just try my best. I'm super nice and polite and I'm very patient.
Yep.
I'm very patient, but sometimes people are just jerks.
Well, they're used to being, and it really just depends. I've seen it in all, salary levels, because sometimes you're like, oh, rich people are like this or whatever. I have seen all different types of people have a really large superiority complex over the fact of what we do. We're the cleaners. We're the hired help. And so I oftentimes experience where it feels condescending or disrespectful, or we break up with them. I've had grown men throw absolute temper tantrums because we broke up with them and they've never had that happen before. They've never been rejected by a company,
Well, it's just, 99% of our clients are great. Yep. So I cherry pick the clients, but like every once in a while, that superior complex. Because like back in the day, right, like 100 years ago, right, let's talk about 1900, Gilded Age, all those people had
servants.
They had maids, they had servants, they did everything in the house. So sometimes they get a little lost or they get a little confused, or maybe the person they had before did so much more for them. So like it's our job to educate that person, but there's still that feeling. I don't know. I've often thought about how can we get rid of that in the community?
Yeah. And honestly, I don't use the word maid because of it. I'm not a maid service. We are a cleaning company. Yeah. And so even that word feels a bit old fashioned to me. And so I try to, even our cleaners, they're cleaning technicians. That is the job title, so even in the verbiage that we use can help kind of influence that, I think.
See, I started my company with the word maid in it years ago. So it's late now. It's already been branded.
It is what it is. Exactly.
But at least everyone knows what we do. But no, I would say for the most part, the stats say that in 2026, 80% of 2-parent households will all have a cleaning service.
That's amazing. So how exciting for us, right?
It's super exciting. It's more difficult to educate a person that hasn't had a cleaning service. Like, you have to be super specific. Like, here's what's included, here's what's not included. If you have a question or want something added, please communicate. I always tell everyone, I can fix anything I know about. I'm not a mind reader. If you need something added, or if you think something is included or whatever, just ask me. You can fix everything. And that's like the biggest thing. That's another thing that new companies they don't have their communication skills down yet. So then there becomes that issue with the clients expecting something, you're not delivering something, but you don't know that they're expecting it.
Yeah.
So you have to figure that out and have constant communication.
Yeah, I would say that like 70% of situations in a home or with a customer could have been avoided with better communication and being proactive instead of reactive, meaning explaining things from the front and having these things in place. And even something as simple of, okay, we need to get more time approved. Don't wait to the end of the frickin' appointment to do that. Like, you have your cleaners checking in ahead of time so that we can do that, right?
Or like the person that asks to do 27 windows the hour before they're cleaning. Yep. I'm like, come on. I'll pull it off if I can. Like, if they have a lighter day, I will ask them. That actually happened. I will ask them and I'll be like, hey, you guys have a little bit of a shorter day. Do you mind if I add 27 windows so this person's clean? They were like, no, cool. We want the hours. I'm like, cool. We made everyone happy. But like, I try and tell clients, and you can talk to clients like sometimes till you're blue in the face and they're not. You got to tell them like 10 times to be like, here are the rules of engagement, 48-hour cancellation, if you have to reschedule your appointment or whatever. But like, I feel like sometimes you're constantly repeating yourself in this business.
Yeah, 100%. We've kind of experienced this with our, specifically our vacation rentals. We don't take any more vacation rentals on. We have grandfathered, I think, 5 or 6 of them in. And even still, we're just like, screw these vacation rentals, man, because they constantly want us to be their property manager. Literally always. They keep asking for things that are property management behavior. And we have to constantly be like, no, we don't do this. And it's just really frustrating. It's good money, and that's why we've kept the ones that we have. But eventually, they're all going to be gone.
It's funny you say that. I'm actually next week. I do a live at 5 on Wednesdays every week in my group. Next week, I'm doing a training on residential versus Airbnb, like exactly what you're talking about. But we only have a few. We have 4 that are just seasonal for us. So we're heading into winter, unfortunately, here. So it's just, in the summer. But property managers, can you put the batteries in the lockbox? Can you check the toilet? Can you do this? And then companies are starting to charge property manager fees, but like, I don't want to charge a couple $100 a month and have to go over to a house.
I don't want to deal with it. Yeah, like snow removal, or like I remember one of our owners, I guess, if guests leave stuff, we'll take care of them. We'll mail shit back or whatever. That's fine. Right. We've done it before. But one of our owners was like, a guest left a fishing pole, and we're like, oh, okay. We go, look, it's in the lake. It's in the lake. It's literally floating in the lake. And the owner was like, it was right off the shore. Why didn't you guys get it? Like, yes. It's not that. Yeah. That and like,
Pets, they think you're going to babysit the pets. You're going to be careful with the pets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, picking up the dog crap, right? It's not fun.
No,
right?
It's just not our job. And like, I don't want to ask my cleaners to do something that they didn't sign up for,
It's like, I don't know. I mean, if it happens, an accident here or there, and it's in our service agreement, but people just
yeah, I know. You got to constantly. They'll push the boundaries, and that I think that's what it is. Is just like, again, not instead of getting frustrated, just like stay calm, hold the line, and remember that at the end of the day, we can make the decision at any moment to not work with somebody, and just always keeping that in the back of the mind. This needs to be a mutually beneficial relationship.
It has to be. I mean, we haven't had to fire anyone because they were obnoxious in a while.
Mm-hmm. Same.
I try and start to quote unquote train them at the beginning of the estimate, the communication of this, any questions, follow up, all that stuff. Because I do all that stuff, but like, I mean, every once in a while, I would say maybe like 1 out of 50 people are jerks. But like, I have noticed, so like I said, I started solo cleaning years ago. I've noticed it change a little bit. I have noticed that the clients have more respect now that I have all these systems and all these safeguards in place than when I was a solo cleaner. I think when you're a solo cleaner, you get beat up a little.
You get taken advantage of a lot more because that's so true, is that even like from the very first like interaction that they'll have with our company, they'll realize that that's not going to fly. They can't be like that. We're not going, or an individual cleaner may come across more as desperate or needing the work potentially, or being easier to take advantage of. And that's a very unfortunate, because I wish that wasn't the case. And it may not be the reality. It's just the perception, right?
It was how I felt in the beginning. I mean, I had a couple of property managers stiff me, not pay me. Well, I was just,
I'll have to show you a picture, Cheryl. I actually dressed up as Dog the Bounty Hunter one time before I had credit cards on file, and I went and knocked on doors to get my check that they owed.
I met him, I met him in Florida.
What?
I did. A couple of years ago, they were trying to catch some criminal, and I happened to be in Florida. I happened to be in Clearwater, and he was at a restaurant, and I got a picture with him.
Oh, that's so crazy! I was just in Clearwater Beach a month ago. So that's fantastic. If you got the picture, send it to me. I'd love to see it.
Clients, I mean, you have to educate. You have to educate the client. You can't just assume that they know how to do business with you. That's another thing that cleaners will make the mistake, or cleaning business owners, is that they think that the client understands where they're coming from. No, you have to teach them beyond a reasonable doubt, hey, this is how to do business with my company. As soon as you do that, everyone starts to respect you.
They start to act right, because they understand what the rules of engagement are, right? And that's what we want. We just want to work with people that are on both sides, employees and clients. We're all trying to just work together to get the thing done, and just be very judicious when we have to make the chop.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, this has been amazing, Cheryl. I know we could talk. I can't believe it's been an hour 12 minutes. I'm like, what?
I know, it's like an hour and 12 minutes. I know we could just go and go and go. I'm going to call you, you're my sister from another mister.
Yes, no, I am. I'm your redheaded stepchild.
That's hilarious. It was so good. I love talking with you anytime.
I know, Cheryl. Well, we'll do a part 3, of course. Where can the people find you? We'll drop it down below, but let us know if somebody's interested in coaching with you.
Sure. So you can visit my website. It is sisterswhoscale.com. I also have a free community group site on Facebook, and it's just @sisterswhoscale. Easiest way to find me.
Great. We will definitely link that below with all of the other resources, guys. Thank you so much again, Cheryl. Thanks, guys, for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave some love down below for Cheryl. Hit that like, hit that subscribe if you're not subscribed to our YouTube or our Spotify. Leave a review on Spotify as well, so more owners can hear all of this fantastic knowledge. And we'll see you on the next episode, guys, of Filthy Rich Cleaners. Thanks so much. Bye.